morning, everybody, and aloha. It is Friday, March 20th, 2026, and this is the Project Oversight Committee meeting. I want to call to order. I wanted to open up first with roll call. We have Vice Chair Lisa Baker.
Present.
Present. And I know Anthony, Ed, and Chris are not available. So we do need to designate one other person to be on the committee. So I'd like to ask that Kiko Bukowski.
Present.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And with that, we do have quorum. So thank you, everybody. So first item on there would be the public testimony. I'd like to ask if there's anyone online or in person would like to give public testimony on any of the items or reports on the agenda. Seeing none, hearing none, let's move to item 3, the January 2026 monthly progress report. We have Vance Suda, Project Director. Vance.
Good morning, Chair, board members. Vance Suda, Heart Project Director, and with me, Corey Ellis, Director of Project Controls. I'll go through as usual with the key issues, kind of giving you the latest. This is the January monthly report, but I'll give you up-to-date information based on what's going out there in the field. Ryan, if you can go to page 5. So starting with CCR 3, the contractor continues to work on punch list items and closing out non-conformance NCRs. There's a few more things that they're currently working on, but hoping to complete those in the next few weeks. We're expecting substantial completion in the April timeframe. Just trying to get some of the minor things completed and accepted with HDOT. A lot of those punch list items were HDOT items, as we discussed previously. CCR 4E, so the first portion of Dillingham from Middle Street to Puahale had been completed and turned over to Tudor Perini. The contractor continues work throughout Dillingham, focusing in really on the 12 kV for the remainder of Dillingham. Really putting a big effort into the Puahale to Waikimilo area, which is the next section we plan to turn over to Tudor. So all the customer connections to the new underground infrastructure requires a lot of coordination with HECO, with property owners and whatnot. And with the recent weather, last weekend and now this weekend, it's been quite a challenge with HECO. I know they're dealing with a lot of emergencies out there. There's a lot of power outages that they've been dealing with, and appreciate all that HECO does. So unfortunately, they did have to cancel some hold-offs, which is critical to our schedule, but understand the circumstances. So we continue to work with HECO and try and get back on their calendar for these hold-offs so that we can complete a lot of those connections and then do the ultimate cutover from the overhead to underground and then removal of that overhead line. So again, appreciate all HECO's effort, understand that they're dealing with all the emergencies, but we will continue to coordinate and work with them to get our work complete. In terms of 138 kV sweep repairs, those conduits that we talked about, that repairs continue to move forward. Contractors working in multiple locations to complete. I believe one location had been completed, but they're continuing to work at the various locations to have that all resolved. Some of the locations require coordination with the foundation repairs for the 138 kV poles, so there's some back and forth with the contractor doing the repairs before the sweeps can be fully replaced. So there's just a little coordination that needs to go on in order to get those completed, but work continues in terms of that. For those foundations, 3 of the 4 foundations have been repaired and completed. The last one requires some temporary anchoring before they start any of the repairs and excavation near those foundations. So that's being coordinated and ongoing, hoping to get that completed in the next few weeks. And then I think we talked through the 138 kV cables and the replacement cables. So those are on order. We're expecting them in the late August timeframe for delivery. And then following that will be installation of the cables. We're doing everything we can to mitigate schedule impacts. Right now, we don't have a real determination as to what that will look like. We want to have those cables on hand, have these sweeps repaired before we determine how that's going to impact. It also has to do with the hold-offs with HECO as well for those 138 kV cables. So still a little coordination that needs to be had before we can provide the impacts to the overall schedule. Moving on to City Center Guideway and Station. So as I mentioned, the first part of Dillingham from Middle Street to Pu'ahale, that area has been turned over to Tudor. They started setting up their maintenance of traffic last week. So if you've driven that area, freshly new paved streets, there's some barriers and some new striping for that first section. So you'll kind of shift over to the Mackay side of Dillingham and then back over to where CCUR is working, where it kind of splits. So just be cautious if you're driving in that area, especially during the rain. There's signs and everything set up, cones. The contractors were out there last week with the heavy rain, kind of fixing cones, fixing maintenance of traffic items just to make sure it's all safe for the public. I'm sure they're going to be doing that this weekend too with the upcoming weather. So that maintenance of traffic has been set up. Tudor is looking to begin mobilizing in the next 1 to 2 weeks onto Dillingham to start shaft construction. So similar to what you see on Nimitz with the large equipment. They'll dig the holes for the shafts, start setting up those rebar cages, and then putting the rebar cages in the ground and pouring concrete. Those shafts will support the columns in the future. So they'll kind of move from west to east in that manner, hence the focus to get from Pu'ahale to Waikimilo, that section kind of completed for the utilities so that we can turn it over to Tudor. The first column for City Center Guideway and Station scheduled to be poured on Monday next week. Weather permitting, hoping all goes well and everything else stays in place in terms of delivery of concrete and whatnot. They're planning to pour that on Monday. You can kind of see it on Nimitz if you drive out there. There's this big yellow structure out there in the middle of Nimitz. That's the forms for the column. So they set the rebar cages, they put the forms on, and then they'll pour the concrete. And once the concrete cures, then they'll strip the forms, and you'll see hopefully a nice looking column. So exciting news and exciting milestone for us here to see work actually come out of the ground. The past few years was all underground work that you don't really get to see. It's not really extravagant. So exciting news. Following that, in the next couple of weeks, the contractor Tudor is going to mobilize to do some station shaft and foundation work at the Chinatown station. So they did some prep work there, as I talked, previously. But in the next couple of weeks, they're going to mobilize their station foundation contractor, and they'll start there. Their plans to do Chinatown and then move to the Iwale Kapalama station. They're still deciding which station to go to, but that's what we're expecting. Neighborhood design workshop. Last time we reported we were going to have the neighborhood design workshop. Unfortunately, that was canceled due to weather. We do have our next neighborhood design workshop for the Iwale station on April 23rd. And then the following one will be in May on the 6th for downtown station. We are looking to reschedule the one that was canceled last week, but it hasn't been rescheduled yet. That's it for CCGS, and just wanted to give you folks an update on some of the west side projects. I think we haven't touched on that in a long time. One being the Waipahu Mackay entrance. So if you recall, at the Waipahu station, there's an entrance on the Mauka side that kind of ties into the transit center back there. In Waipahu, there was no Mackay entrance installed at the time of the construction for that station. It was provisioned that a future entrance could be added. So we are in constructing that Mackay entrance. The designs are pretty much 100% complete, just going through final reviews with stakeholders, and we're planning to begin the procurement and solicitation towards the end of April. So just packaging up, we're doing final reviews on all the documentation for the procurement and planning to put that out on the street by the end of April. And that's all that I have. Open for questions?
Okay, open it up. Before we open up the questions, just wanted to recognize the other board members that are present. I really can't see, but appreciate you folks being here. So with that, any questions from the board?
You got Natalie.
Natalie? Yes, go ahead, Natalie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vance, for your report. I'm sure you're aware that with the water and everything, the roadways some of them are horrendous, and Dillingham was already bad. So I'm just wondering on those areas where there's active construction, whether the storm is impacting that kind of thing as far as like, the asphalt and the work that has to be done in those areas. Is there impact from that?
Yeah, some of the work may get impacted. Surprisingly, last week Saturday, Tudor poured a shaft in the rain. They weren't impacted at all. They said, rain or shine, we're going to pour that shaft, and they were able to do so. Some of the work, depending on the conditions, there could be, some manholes or handholds or pits that require pumping, all that water out. So it does slow things down. The contractor, well aware of the weather that's upcoming and doing some preparations in terms of some of the BMPs or the materials and things that help contain some of the soil and whatnot. They're implementing that. They weren't impacted too much, although, as mentioned, if there are water sitting in handholds, manholes, or pits, that requires extra work. We closely monitor all the work that's ongoing. Throughout last week and last weekend, we're getting texts of cones being moved around by the wind and whatnot, and kudos to NON. They were out there moving cones and standing out there in the rain, and our team as well, doing inspections. Our safety team was out there to make sure everything was proper. There are potholes that do come up, and NON did go out and fill those potholes, but those are things that kind of slowly creep up, but they are actively out there addressing those items.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the areas where I was interested in, because people who are traveling down there, I mean, those potholes, some of them are terrible. And if they're in a place where there's really narrow lanes, then it makes it difficult to come through. So as far as you're aware, though, that's not, I mean, that's being handled as it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Kalana.
Yep. Anybody else on there? Kika, if you can help out, if you know of anybody.
Kalana, I have a question for Vance and Corey.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
How are you handling the time delays? And when are you resolving each delay, given that now you have weather delays added on?
Yeah, the weather delays we haven't really seen too many delays at this point in time. We're still assessing whether or not there was work impacted. As mentioned, we thought, that shaft wasn't going to be poured because of the heavy rain, but Tudor moved forward and they were actually able to do that. So they don't seem to be impacted. We need to assess, as I mentioned previously, the HECO cancellations. Those are the things that really impact us, because those have a required time frame to be scheduled with HECO, and they need to plan and be prepared. We potentially see some impacts with that 12 kV and some of the customer connections. We're trying to work with HECO as much as possible to get back on the schedule, so we don't necessarily know as of yet. The contractor understands kind of HECO's process procedures, so they're trying to work as best as possible and collaborate with HECO as well. But potentially, as of now, we don't fully know what the impacts are. Corey, if you have anything to add.
Is there a overall schedule that all of you agreed on?
Yeah.
So then each cable and contractors are aware of all the delays that occur.
Yeah, and that's key to us navigating this. There's a constant communication with all of the contractors and understanding where access can be delivered to like the follow-on contractor. So in a lot of cases, that's HMS or it's Tutor. And it's making sure we're communicating, over communicating, when you can get access, how long it's going to take, and just kind of rebuilding our schedule as we go along at this point until we kind of get to the end of some of these issues.
Does a contractor submit their revised schedules, and do you guys agree and actually pay for these delays monthly, or is it quarterly, or?
Yeah, we're not paying for delays as we go. We are working with them and creating schedules. I mean, these schedules are changing almost weekly in some cases, depending on where contractors go. And so we're just tracking at this point and saying, look, we'll figure out the commercial issue when it comes down. Right now, let's focus on getting the work done. And to our contractors'
For
credit,
contractors, are they submitting claims?
we have not.
Or are they doing anything?
We have not seen any claims.
Yeah, no claims.
No claims or anything yet. It's kind of been agreed. Let's focus on getting the work done. Everybody acknowledges there's impacts, and we'll deal with the commercial stuff.
Yeah, the contractors have been really collaborative and cooperative with us. They, NAN, for example, they were to work in a linear fashion, right, from, one end to the other end. Obviously, that didn't occur. They're jumping around here and there where they can. And as soon as, they're stuck in one area, whether it's waiting for HECO acceptance or whatever it may be, they're working in a different area. So they're working collaboratively with us to try and mitigate any delays. But as Corey mentioned, we don't have any claims for delay at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on. I got one quick one. Kalon.
Sorry, go ahead, Kiko.
Can you expand a little bit on the issue with the utility?
In regards to the cancellations or cancellation? Yeah, so recently we had some hold off scheduled where basically HECO de-energizes, one of their lines so that we can do tie-in or connection. Because of all the weather related issues and all the power outages, they had to cancel some of those hold offs, so we weren't able to make those connections. We're rescheduling and putting in our request as soon as possible, but that was due to last week's rain, and this week's rain now we expect a few more cancellations, unfortunately, but we fully understand the priorities for HECO.
Is that impacting the surrounding businesses or vendors in any way?
No, they're still connected. No interruption in service unless it's HECO related power outages.
And the impact to the schedule yet to be determined?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any
Come
other
on,
board?
I have one. It's
Yep, go ahead,
John.
John. Yep.
So guys, I continue to be concerned about the 138 kV issue. I appreciate that you folks say that you're doing everything you can to get the problems resolved. Can you share with us like some of the key risks that the board should be monitoring in this? I'm thinking things like cost, additional costs, and then obviously impact to schedule.
Yeah, I'll start with the schedule. So obviously this is our critical path, getting that 138 kV, especially in the area from the Malco shift, so Waikimilo all the way to Kahi substation area or Kahi Street. Right now, with the cables on order, we do have some cable on island from the initial what was to be installed, and those cables are still good. They haven't been voided or anything like that. It's not enough to obviously, to all of the 138 kV. What we're looking at is mitigation strategies of using what we have for the circuits that we can install But schedule, obviously, if anything were to go wrong with that, any other delays, unforeseen things, that 138 kV is the critical path. So monitoring it very closely. In terms of cost, right now, as we've done in the past, we continue to work technically and collaboratively with the contractors, and we set aside any commercial discussions. I'm sure, most definitely that will come up at some point in time. We've been, I don't want to say notified, but there are indications that the contractor will seek reimbursement for some of the issues or the cable that that needed to be replaced and removed, but we haven't had those yet, and that's how we normally deal with the contractors. We work through the issues, and then we leave the commercial items for future discussion with the executive team. But yes, definitely something to be concerned or aware of.
Okay, thank you. I guess in particular on the cost side, please notify us as early as possible. We know how critical that is. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yep, thanks, John.
Sorry, Chair, can I follow up on that? Kika. Okay. Yeah, look, just to kind of dovetail off of John's question. So I get it, and a lot of these things are very, very fluid, and it's kind of like a game day decision on a lot of these things. So, but I mean, I think we all probably share the same concerns because this is such a critical issue. To the extent that you guys can provide as much advance information and guidance on where we're at. I know it's an ongoing, like I said, a fluid thing, and you guys are I'm so assuming trying to do a lot of workarounds, but to the extent you guys can provide us with as much advance information would be really, really helpful.
Definitely.
Right.
Okay, we'll note that as a follow-up item in our summary of requests. Carolyn, if you could note that.
No, this is, excuse me, this is Kathy. Can I ask a question?
Yep, go ahead, Kat. Yeah.
I was delighted with the repayments, I think. But especially with this weather, can you describe briefly how you communicate with all the adjacent property owners and businesses about what's going on, what's the future, what they can anticipate?
Yeah.
What's that communication program like?
Yeah, so the contractor has public involvement and public outreach requirements, and then we obviously have our own internal staff doing public outreach and public involvement. We also have community meetings, quarterly community meetings, where we provide updates to the public as to schedule, progress, anything major upcoming that we can inform them of. Recently, with the change in the maintenance of traffic, we did, I would say, 3 or 4 news releases or media releases on that change and upcoming modification, just so that everyone's aware. We do, the public involvement team also goes business to business, even the residents in the area, to notify them of any interruptions in power service, when they're doing their reconnections. Also cable and internet service, they'll let them know when that's upcoming. So a lot of interaction with the businesses and the residents, whether it's personal discussions, one-on-one, or provided through community meetings. And if there's no more questions, I did have some photos. I think we talked about previously request some photos of construction that I wanted to share. And the team was out there taking these photos. I didn't take these photos. I take really bad photos. You can go to the next slide. So this is a little older photo, obviously on Nimitz. There you can see the large cranes. That big cylinder or that metal casing there is is the temporary casing for the shaft construction. So as they drill the hole, that casing goes down into the hole. And they vary from, call it 75 feet to 125 feet in depth. And once that's in, they put the rebar cage in, and then that cylinder, that casing is extracted as they're pouring concrete. So it's a temporary casing just to hold the earth down below, so that when they put the rebar cage in there, nothing collapses in or anything goes within that hole. And then they pour the concrete, as I mentioned, and pull it out. You can go to the next photo, and that's the rebar cage case that goes down into the hole. Very, obviously it's the length of the shaft. So again, range from 75 to 125 feet, depending on location and design. Requires multiple cranes in order to put that into the shaft. Go to the next slide. And then this is, I would say, last week photo of the column, the first column. I think right now there's both sides of that form up, but you can see kind of the rebar cage, and then that's half of the form. So I think that's close to Fort Street on Nimitz. That's the first column that we will see. I think that's the last one. Oh, and just the maintenance of traffic. So Dillingham, kind of close to the Hawaii Gas, Marukai area. On the left photo there, looking, I think that's looking east, yeah? Yeah. And then the one on the right is looking west. So you can see those concrete barriers, and this was, I think, last week, Saturday or Friday, or so you can see it was raining at that time, but contractor was still out there, setting all of this up. And the nice paved road.
Thank you, Vance. That was good.
Okay, we can go to the PMLC.
Yeah, any further questions, board members, before we move on? I know it's always difficult because we're looking at and we're going through the January report and you're giving us current updates, so appreciate it. But yeah, if we could move on to item number 4, the January 2026 PMLC report.
All right, and as usual, I'll go through the major issues and or concerns. And Ryan, you can go to page 5. Starting with the first one is the Hitachi claim, or the core systems contractor claim for segment 1 and 2. We don't have any changes or updates in terms of this other than what we provided a few months ago. We continue to do preparation for mediation, document retrieval, and discovery with the team. The next item is the 4.4E status, and as I talked through the issues with the 138 kV, just PMLC's concerns and monitoring of that replacement of the sweeps and the overall schedule. The next item is CCGS. The schedule for CCGS, we continue to work with the contractor to get a baseline schedule submitted. We do have some elevated discussions with Tudor and their team to resolve this issue. I'm hoping to resolve it in the next month or two, and just get a baseline schedule that we can accept, move forward, and then begin updating with real-time data. The next one is segment 3, core systems design delay. We continue, so again, appreciate the board's approval for the change order to remobilize the core systems contractor. They have been in discussions, negotiations with their subcontractors, and continue to push that forward to get their designers to begin or continue design on segment 3. They continue to provide feedback and information to certain interface questions between Tudor. So they are interfacing. There are some designs that still need to be finalized in order to provide the full information to tutor, but we do continue to supplement and provide information to tutor to not delay their design. So tutors continuing to move on, they're on track and moving forward with completing their designs. For example, the Chinatown Station foundations that's going to occur, so their designs for that are complete, and they're moving forward. So we continue to interface and work through a lot of those issues and mitigate any delays with tutor. And that's the last issue. Open for questions?
Questions, board members?
Solano, I have a question.
Yeah,
When
go ahead.
is the mediation scheduled for?
October of this year, and that's the court-ordered mediation.
All the documentation or whatever they requested, you guys are putting it together.
Yeah, so we're going through the process of identifying, key terms and things like that, identifying key personnel to retrieve documentation. There's been back and forth between the attorneys in terms of that.
Is there a deadline for that?
I'm not sure. I can double check.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
there's call for wider evacuations. So the dam is likely to open.
Any other questions, board members?
So that's been, yeah. The
See
emergency
about-
sewer.
Is that good, Kika? Did you say?
Yep, I don't see any questions.
Okay. Anybody online? Lisa? Nobody?
Do you have high ground?
Okay, hearing none, seeing none. I believe we are on the last item 5, the summary of board member requests. Carolyn?
Thank you, Chair. There was one request from Board Member Katahira, who has requested that Hart keep the board apprised of any impacts to cost as a result of the 130 kV issues.
138 kV. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion items, board members?
Yeah, here, crazy.
If there are none, I'd like to call the meeting to be adjourned. It is now 8:34.
You guys wanna roll right in?
Roll right into Finance Committee meeting.
Wait for Solana to come back.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. Today is Friday, March 20th, 2026, and we'll call the meeting to order at 8:34. I would like to begin by taking roll call of Finance Committee members. I am John Katahira, Finance Committee Chair. Vice Chair Kalana Park.
Here.
Roger Morton, I believe, is excused. Lisa Baker.
Here.
Thank you, Lisa. Chris Takashige, I believe, is excused. At this time, I would also like to note the presence of other board members in the room or on virtual. Kika Bukowski, Natalie Iwasa, Jared Kawashima, Nelson Lee, Kathy Sokugawa. Did I miss anybody? Okay, we're good. All right, so moving on. Agenda item number 2. Are there any members of the public in the audience or online who would like to provide testimony on any of the agenda items today? Hearing none, seeing none, let's move on to agenda item number 3, which is February 2026 cash flow report. Court?
Sure. Corey Ellis, Project Fellows. I will go through the cash flow report summary for the year 2026.
$125 million drawdown available to us through the FTA. We are going to be collecting those over the next several periods as we get more invoices to submit. So you'll see that spread, 125 has been spread throughout the rest of this fiscal year. As far as uses, we saw $33.6 million spent in February. Some of the bigger ticket payouts were to CCGS, which is, I expect to continue being our biggest draw. We did see almost $10 million for CCR4. And then you can see about $1 million for CCR4E and our East Side CE&I team. Salaries was a larger payout, and the note there on the bottom says it's for fringe benefits and case charges kind of hit us this month. So that's the cause for that maybe larger expense this month or last month. Financing activities consistently about $14.1 million paid in a month. Again, our surplus in total of funding collections is about $2.7 million. And our last item, number 5, these CPPs came in under our projections by $1 million. So it was utility relocations, salaries, and oh, actually, that's a plus, sorry. And then contingency. With that, I will turn it over if you have any questions.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions? Natalie?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Corey, for the update. Can you tell me again, why did the 125 from the federal government why is it spread out?
It's being spread. We are collecting costs with this reimbursement grant. So we don't have $125 million this period to submit. So we're going to spread it over the next several months to kind of get that collection.
But the money's not coming in periodically, right? I mean, it's all going to come in one chunk, right?
It's a drawdown. So we have to submit, get it approved, and then it comes in. So it's a drawdown on a grant.
Okay.
So as we have eligible expenses, we submit it, and then they'll turn it over. Yeah.
Then the other thing is, with respect to what's happening in Iran and gas prices and inflation, of course, on one respect, that's good for HART because with inflation comes higher GET collections. But on the other side, of course, costs go up. So, and then of course, tourism with this storm and everything, has kind of plummeted. So I'm just wondering, how far out do you folks look at these types of events that are happening that impact this financial picture here? And, at what point do you become concerned? I guess is kind of the way to put it.
Yeah. I would actually prefer Mike to respond to that question. What I could tell you though is we keep our outlook for the rest of the project. His model will continually check for that. I know he does his own kind of what ifs and looks at these things. He shares with us. I just don't have that information today, but we can definitely get back to you and get that for you.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a really important question because we just don't know how long this is going to go on, and it could really screw things up. So,
you're absolutely right.
If you could get back to us on that, appreciate it.
Will do.
Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Any other committee members? Questions for Corey?
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Can I
Kika?
Can I just make a quick announcement? I just received a text from Carolyn. I guess there's a alert, evacuation alert for the Wailua Pali'iwa area due to dam failure. If anybody
Risk of dam failure or dam failure?
says
Oh no.
dam failure.
Wow.
So if anybody is listening or anybody here that may be impacted by that, please take precaution, or if you guys need to do anything, call anyone. Just want to make that announcement.
Thank you, Kika.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Hope everybody is safe out there. Okay, going back. Any questions for Corey? If not, I have one, Corey. So under the Hart salaries and wages, that asterisk says it includes fringe benefits and case charges of 1.9 million. Can you expand on that? Is it a one-time thing? Is it budgeted? You know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my understanding, I'm sorry. I do think it's a one-time thing. We get hit with it once a year and then it kind of goes back to.
So it would be budgeted.
Correct.
Anticipated.
Anticipated around this time every year. That's right.
All right. If there are no other questions for Corey, let's move on to agenda item number 4, which is the FY27 operating and capital budgets update. I know Mike usually does it. He's not here today.
Yeah, Mike is out on
taking that, Vance?
vacation. Yes. So we did go to the budget hearing last week, Wednesday. Mike O'Keefe did a presentation, did an excellent job in presenting to the council our FY27 budget. There were no major questions, just some minor clarifying questions in terms of the presentation. Just to note, there were some compliments on, you know, our realistic staffing projections and what we foresee in terms of hiring. A couple of council members did comment on that. And also appreciate some of the elimination of positions as well, or one position. They appreciated that, you know, to be realistic and not try and over-project on what is needed, or even taking a look at what we currently have and determining that maybe that position is no longer needed. So very positive feedback and very, very positive comments and questions from council. No action was taken. It was moved forward. There was no issues or any other ask or actions on our part.
Okay, thank you, Vance. And then just as a quick summary on the schedule for the budget, I won't go into the detail of all the stuff in the past, but basically the board, our board approved, we approved the proposed budget back in November, and then it was submitted to City Council via the Mayor's office by December 1st, 2025. And so we are now in that period where City Council is evaluating. We anticipate to finalize the budget in collaboration with City Council by June 30. So that's kind of a quick look at our schedule. So it sounds like we're on track for that. Any questions, committee members? Okay, if not, moving on to agenda item number 5. Carolyn, please provide a summary of board member requests.
Thank you, Chair. We had one request from Board Member Iwasa, who in general has asked that Hart keep the board apprised of how global conditions may be impacting Hart's budget moving forward. Thank you.
Natalie, is that correct enough?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. I think maybe global economic conditions,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
impacting the budget forecast.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other business to discuss? Hearing none, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. It is now 8:45. Thanks, everyone. Be safe out there.
Right? Like,
Thank you,
you're
Chair.
in a slightly different position.
So
You want to roll right into the HR committee, Pika?
your call. Ready?
It's fine with me if everybody's cool with it. It's going to be short, I think.
Yep, let's go.
Okay. So bear with me because I'm working. I don't usually do this from home. And I'm not as competent at it as I used to be. In fact, I can't get to my agenda.
That's why we need to know the.
For what it's worth, Lisa, you're way better than me.
I don't know about that. Bear with me. I'm going to have to pull it up again. I do know the beginning part of it. My name is Lisa Baker, and I am the chair of the HR committee. And I think we start off by doing roll call. And I'm going to ask that Carolyn do that for me since I'm trying to pull this up.
I'm so sorry. I didn't hear what you said, Lisa. Oh, roll call, sure.
And you, yes, please.
Okay, so for Human Resources Committee meeting, I'll take roll call. Lisa Baker is here.
Present.
John Katahira.
Here.
Anthony Alto is excused and Roger Morton is excused. So at the moment, oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm here.
Are you on the committee or you've been
Yes, I am.
designated? Okay, sorry.
He's on the committee.
Nelson Lee is here.
All right. Thank you, Carolyn. And then we have Kathy Awasa, Kika Bukowski, Natalie Awasa, Kathy Sokogawa. God, I'm terrible at this. Jared Kawashima. I think that's everybody, right? Kulana Park, too, in attendance. So at this stage, we're at now item number 2 on the agenda for public testimony. Is there anyone in person or online wishing to provide public testimony for the HR committee? Carolyn, can you see anything?
Nobody, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the third thing on the agenda is the CEO annual performance review for 2025. And I have been advised that to do this, we can go into executive session. However, before we do that, I would like to propose that we delay this to do this in person when the CEO is present, as I think it has much more meaning when we can be all together. And so I would like to
Excuse me, Lisa.
suggest.
Lisa, I
Yeah.
just got a text that Lori is on her way down. If you wanted to try to do it today.
Lisa, I just got into the office. I'm grabbing my folder and coming downstairs.
Okay. So even given that, I know there's some people that have provided input that are not available online or in person. Do we wish to continue with this agenda item or postpone it to next month?
Lisa, I have a question. Kika,
Yes, sir.
if we defer, does it put us in any, do we have any time requirements on this agenda item, or is it possible to defer at this time?
There is no time requirements that I am aware of and nothing that is predicated on us completing this other than in a timely fashion according to her contract. Lori was to provide us with, the contract requires an annual review, and then the metrics, item number 4 on this agenda, she is required to provide that to us at the beginning of the year, which she did. So there is nothing riding on this being done this month.
Actually, Lisa, in my contract, it says within 60 days of receiving my recommendations, the board shall, in conjunction with myself, provide specific and measurable performance metrics for the position. So technically, it's 60 days, but we're past that, and so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
Excuse me, Laura. As a point of order on the agenda, that's the next item on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the CEO performance review.
We are, but it was for last year, not the
Oh.
metrics. The metrics are the ones that
Thank
have
you.
the
Sorry.
timeline.
Sorry, Lisa.
Nope, no problem.
So if your call, Lisa.
Well, I'm asking, I will ask Nelson, Lori, and John for their input since they are the only other board members in this committee. If
My
they
only-
agree, and then I would recommend we postpone.
Chair, I have a quick question on the timing of the 2025 performance review. So
sir.
if we decide to defer it, does that in any way impact our CEO's compensation?
No.
Okay, then I am fine deferring if that's what you want to do.
Yes. All right, so I'll put out that we will defer this until the April meeting. Hearing, I can't really see anyone's face to tell if people are agreeing or disagreeing, so you have to be verbal about it. But hearing no objection, I believe that it's in the best interest in providing authentic review comments to do that in person with as many people as possible. And today does not seem like an opportune time to do that. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4. Is Lori yet in the meeting, Carolyn?
She's not here, just not quite yet. I think she's on her way.
I'm in the elevator. No, coming down.
All right, so I will start off with this is the CEO performance metrics for 2026. This does have a timeline on it. Lori was to provide us with her proposed metrics for 2026. And Carolyn sent that out to everyone and requested feedback. We did get some feedback, and there were some comments in the review, the 2025 review input, that appeared to be more applicable to the metrics. Due to Sunshine Law, I've been unable to meet with or talk to the members that have provided that input, and neither one of those members, board members, are present at this meeting today, online or in person. So I would like to, with Lori's permission, make an exception to the contract timeline to also postpone this item to April.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, Lisa.
If there is, I'll expect somebody to say something if there's an objection to that. Okay, seeing none, hearing none. I guess it's more hearing none. That is agenda item 4. And agenda item 5, Carolyn, I don't believe we had any requests other than to move both items to the April agenda.
That's exactly right, Chair. Thank you.
Lisa, I have a
All
question.
right.
There's a
Yes.
question.
I don't know who's asking.
This is Kathy. I have a question about the agenda.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm a little confused. I'm getting better, but both 3 and 4 didn't have any reports in our folders. So, there was nothing to review in there, except that Carolyn was very helpful in providing some general information, like the copy of the executive director's contract. So just to clarify the agenda, so on 3, the performance review, we're going to get documentation from the director on how the performance was done, or the committee is going to come up with some kind of a review document, and then in contrast, 4 would be new review elements for this year. Is that, and then that would be again reported by who? The committee or by the director?
Okay, thank you,
Does that make
Kathy.
sense?
At the last meeting, we went through yes, at the last board meeting or HR committee meeting, we went through this process. And maybe it wasn't clear then, so I'll go over it real quickly again. Is lead up to this meeting, right after our February meeting, all board members, including those on the committee, were sent an annual performance request for review from Carolyn for 2025, along with her contract, I believe, and a deadline to provide feedback. Since we've postponed this to next month, if there's any additional feedback that you would like to provide, please let Carolyn have that information. All feedback is anonymous. Carolyn provides a document to me that I review, and then that document I will turn over. I've just looked for appropriateness. And I did a little bit of moving items from additional comments to the specific item that they referred to that metric. Again, all from 2025, not this year. So Carolyn puts together that document, and then we go into executive session. I will release that document because it is a draft, and you'll review it in the executive session. And we'll go back and forth, questions, answers, and so forth. From that document, then a final letter is created that will then go to our chair, Kika, for signature if approved, and moves on to the mayor and the city council. So it's a review that we finalize as the board of the CEO's performance for 2025, summarize our findings. We generally do not go into any specific details in the letter to the mayor and the city council, but just do an overview. And that is signed by the chair and sent in. And that's the end of the process for 2025 review. The 2026 metrics were also sent out in the end of February, after our February meeting, and asked for input. What was sent out was what was given to me by the CEO. And I think we did a little bit of back and forth, her and I, on that. And then it was sent out to all of you for your input. And then we received feedback. That feedback, we have that feedback. However, there's, like I mentioned, there's a concern that I have between some feedback that was put on the metric for 2026 and some feedback received in the review of 2025 that seems more appropriate to be in the 2026 metrics. But once we finalized, once I can get a better understanding on those two issues, we'll then move to bringing that before the board in a public environment, not executive session, to approve at the HR committee. And I can't remember, Dan, you'll have to remind me if that goes and gets approval from the board.
Yeah, the metrics would be approved by the whole board. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. I believe at this point it's fair to say that Lori, the CEO, is already operating to those metrics. And so there's a timing element in the contract, but I think as long as she is okay with us postponing that, we will postpone that to April, in which case that will be a public discussion, and then hopefully we'll move on to the full board for approval. Does that answer your questions?
Thank you for the reiteration, Lisa.
And yes, Lisa, I'm good with that. Postponing.
Right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, Kathy, if you have any other questions, because I know this is a difficult environment being online, would you please work with Carolyn and she can communicate anything to me? Same with anybody else.
Okay.
This is the same process we've gone through last year.
So again, I'm slow on this thing, but for item number 4, performance metrics, the next meeting, we will have the executive director submit her recommended performance metrics. The product is coming from her.
No, I submitted mine already. It's you folks got to give me the feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Right, you were given, Kathy, what Lori gave us by email from Carolyn. And if you didn't receive it, maybe check with Carolyn to make sure you get a copy of that.
No, I'm just confused about who's doing what to whom next.
So feedback was already received, so there's nothing that anyone on the board needs to do at this time.
Well, especially if we're deferring it, then we're deferring it, right?
Yes,
There's no
correct.
discussion with deferral.
Lisa, Nelson.
Yes. Yep.
So Lori, you got the comments that we all made?
Not officially. You folks have not sent it to me officially. So I think, and I'm sorry, Lisa, I might be speaking for you. I think there were feedback given from board members that she wants clarification on the feedback, but maybe the individuals aren't here at the meeting to discuss it. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yes, and
Okay.
I have reached out through Carolyn to avoid violating sunshine
Yes.
to confirm the member that they would like to be present, but they can't be today.
Okay, perfect.
So, but we're still looking at another month then, after next month, to finalize.
Yes, and just right, and just to clarify, in Lori's contract, in the CEO's contract, the metrics and the performance, other than if the performance is an absolute failure, which it is not, are the only things that would impact the CEO financially. So her metrics and the performance, until we get to her first contract renewal year, which is in 2028, January 2028 is the first start of a renewal period. Does not change her contract. There is no bonuses tied to any of her performance or metrics. This is strictly the method given to us through the contract by which to provide Lori feedback, whether it's in the review comments or whether it's in the performance metrics for 2026. Does that clarify things or help understand, Nelson?
Oh, yeah, no, it's just timing. Being that
Yeah.
May is most of the year. half the year is
Believe it or
done.
not, I've gotten it in August prior to this current board, so it's okay.
We did
You guys
really
are ahead of
well
schedule.
last year.
In January.
Yeah.
Okay,
Last year we were wrapped up in March, so we are only 1 month delayed from last year.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so at this point, if I could figure out what time it is, the HR committee meeting will be adjourned at 9:04. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yes.
Everyone, this is the Hart Board of Directors meeting. It's Friday, March 20th, 2026, approximately 9:11 a.m. We want to, well, before I call this meeting to order, if just want to, we know there's a lot of inclement weather going on out there. We just want to, remind everybody to please stay safe, and we understand there's some things going on on the North Shore. Please stay safe. And before we get into board business, if the board would allow me, recently, I'm sure you folks have heard that we lost our former chair, Colleen Hanabusa, recently. And if you guys would indulge me in just taking a few quick moments of silence just to thank Colleen for all her contributions, not just to the Hart board and to the project itself, but to the state of Hawaii with her community service as an elected official and in other capacities that she served. So if I could ask everyone just to give a moment of silence in recognition and thanks to Colleen for everything that she's done. Thank you, members. With that said, we are having some quorum issues today due to some of the weather and some members not being able to attend because they're taking care of situations that are occurring right now. But we do want to receive public testimony. We won't be able to fulfill the entire agenda. We'll have to defer on most of the agenda items due to lack of quorum. However, we would like to open it up for any public testimony, whether in person or online. I do want to note the presence, although we do not have quorum, I do want to note the presence of members. So I will take a roll call just for the record, but note that we do not have quorum. So I am present. Chris Takashige is excused. Anthony Alto is excused. Don Takeuchi Apuna is excused. We have online Lisa Baker.
Here.
Thank you, Lisa. Present, we have Natalie Iwasa.
Here.
John Katahira.
Here.
Jared Kawashima.
Here.
Thanks, Jared. Nelson Lee.
Here.
Roger Morton is excused. Joe O'Donnell is excused. Kaulana Park.
Here.
Ed Sniffen is excused. And Kathy Sokugawa.
Here.
Okay, so again, we unfortunately we lack quorum. Is there any public testimony in present or online? Okay, seeing none, we will have to defer agenda items 3, committee reports, agenda items 5, CEO performance metrics, agenda item 6, agenda item number 7, and agenda item number 8. And I don't know if we'll have any board requests, but we'll hold that to the end, agenda item number 9. So we will be able to take the CEO update. However, we are waiting for the CEO to return. So until she comes back, why don't we take a brief recess?
Chair?
Yes, Natalie?
Just a question.
Yes.
Point of order on the committee reports.
Yep.
That's just not really a discussion matter. Are you sure that we can't just have those reports? Is that clarified or? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thanks for the question. Yeah, so why don't we take a brief recess, subject to the call of the chair. Recess. Are we off? Okay, welcome back. We are reconvening the Friday, March 20th Hart Board of Directors meeting. We are going to proceed with agenda item number 4, CEO update, and we have Vance Suda, who will be giving the CEO update. Go ahead, Vance.
Yeah, starting with the first item, the Tutor Perini construction update. I mentioned earlier in the Project Oversight Committee, Dillingham Boulevard mobilization. So the first portion of Dillingham from Middle Street to Pu'uhale, the utility relocation is completed enough for Tutor Perini to start moving in. They started setting up their maintenance of traffic. You can see a change from cones to barriers, hard barriers out in that section, and some new striping and new paving in that area. So they're setting that up, and in the next 1 to 2 weeks, they'll start mobilizing with their heavy equipment to start shaft installation in that area. And then they'll move from that west to east direction, drilling shafts moving along. The first column in segment 3, as I mentioned earlier, on Nimitz, the forms for the first column has been installed. The rebar cages are in there, and the plan is to pour on Monday. Weather permitting and any unforeseen circumstances, that is scheduled for Monday, and then takes time for the concrete to set, and then they'll remove those forms. So in the next week or so, you'll see the first column. Very exciting news for us. Major milestone for physical construction coming out of the ground. We've been dealing with a lot of underground work. You don't really see the fruits of your labor in terms of what's being installed underground and all the activity there. Once this column goes up, shortly thereafter, we'll see future columns come up, and it'll just be kind of an assembly line, as our team likes to describe it. They move from one column to the next column, and you'll see kind of a assembly set kind of going one to the next to the next. So very exciting for us in terms of physical out-of-ground construction for segment 3. The next item, the Hitachi media update. Recently, there was an article published where Hitachi provided some comments to the media in terms of delays, and I believe it referred to the PMOC monthly report and the impacts there and potential delay due to the designs that aren't being completed. We just wanted to clarify and make clear that the delays that the PMOC had mentioned is potential delays due to the designs not being completed. There's no current impact to that date. As I mentioned previously in the PLC meeting, the designs, Hitachi's working with their designers to mobilize and get up to speed and start their designs. Some of the designs are already in progress or have been completed from previously. For example, the train control designs, that was done through the entire alignment. So they just need to update that, and a lot of that is in-house within their own technical team. So they're providing feedback and interface with Tutor Perini so that Tutor Perini can move their designs forward. We are not delaying Tutor in terms of providing feedback and input. Our team, through the experience of segment 1 and segment 2, and now that we know in terms of Hitachi's requirements, designs, what sets forth in the contract, we have been providing to Tutor so that Tutor can move forward with their designs. So just wanted to address, at this time, delays in terms of Hitachi's designs we are mitigating, but a lot of their statements were incorrect in terms of even the time frame of what was been stated of the process of remobilizing. I think they left out some facts and some information from when we first lifted the stop work order to when we executed that first change order that we brought forth to the board a few months ago. There has been a lot of back and forth and discussions with Hitachi. I believe when I presented that change order, the initial ask from Hitachi, was some $12 million, and then we agreed to that $3 million, which we executed. In that time frame, picking apart and going through Hitachi's estimates and their calculations, man hours, who's required, who's not required, what was required in terms of remobilizing, storage costs, things like that, was a constant back and forth, and it wasn't that we were kind of sitting back and waiting for things to occur and have that change order executed. There was discussions had which was not provided in their media statement. So just wanted to clear the air on some of those facts and inputs. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add. No problem. Did you want to take the other item, signing ceremony? A couple of weeks ago, we did go to Mayor's office and we had the signing ceremony for Bill 60 relating to the approval of the extensions for the LPA, locally preferred alternative, and the minimal operable segment. We appreciate, unsolicited, this was put forth as mentioned previously by council members, and we appreciate all the support that council and administration has provided and getting us to this point, allowing us to start planning, design, constructing the west and east extensions. Unfortunately, again, it doesn't provide any funding, but it does allow us to do so. That would be the next step, but currently that's what the bill allows. And then Hawaii Food Bank, we kicked off our fundraising activities for Hawaii Food Bank. The team has put together very similar to what we've done in the past, pie in the face. So we are nominating select individuals within the organization for pie in the face. I submitted my nomination for Lori to get pie in her face. So hopefully others, and if Hart employees are listening, vote for Lori to get pie in her face. So we'll continue with that, and we have various activities throughout to raise money for Hawaii Food Bank. And if, Kiko, you want to get pie in your face, we can nominate you.
Get enough pie in the face as it is. Laura, you want to add anything?
Well, maybe, I'm sorry, Vance, I had to go step out. I wasn't sure how much you covered on the Hitachi, but please don't believe everything that you folks read in the media. There was a lot of inaccuracies. I was quite frustrated with their statements. There was a lot of statements they made to the media, and as a whole, government does not litigate in the media, and I made that clear to the Hitachi executives. If they want to, we will continue to do so, but I don't think it's in the best interest of either one of us. So I did not respond to their latest comments, but just understand quite a bit of inaccuracies in the article. So I'll leave it at that.
Members, any questions? Natalie?
Yeah, thank you, Vance and Lori. Just a point of clarification on Bill 60. You say that there's no funding, so we monitor that ending balance, which sometimes goes up and down. So if I understand correctly, and more so for the public, that there's no plans to use any of the current funding for planning any potential projects. Is that correct?
So just as a reminder, we did execute that change order with Tutor Perini for the design option to Ala Moana. We haven't issued a notice to proceed, and that's where, for that change order, the funding at the end, cash balance, is where coming from. It's outside of the FFGA, so it'll be below the line, as we say. We haven't issued NTP, as I mentioned. We're kind of holding on that for now, depending on, and even to your comments and questions earlier in regards to what we're seeing and what's going on in the world today and how it's impacting our collections. We're just trying to iron things out before we actually spend on that Ala Moana design.
So just to clarify, yeah.
That's separate.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So Bill 60 is from Ala Moana beyond that. So Vance is absolutely correct. That portion was still within the prior Bill 60 geography, I guess. So as of right now, we don't have plans, but we do have the authorization now. So if we need to tap in to start just planning, where is the correct route? We may, but we will definitely keep you folks fully informed. But as of today, right now, no. I think it's too premature at this point.
Yeah, okay, great. I just wanted to clarify that because we've heard we don't have funding, and
Yes.
sometimes people don't understand exactly where money is coming from or
Right.
exactly what that means.
Right,
So
yeah.
Thank you for
Okay,
that clarification.
thank you.
Lori Nelson here. I just wanted to ask, since you mentioned the NTP, how long can you hold that off before you have to renegotiate the contract?
We had till June of this year.
So their original contract, we actually passed that deadline, and then we negotiated with them the cost. So the team did a good job negotiating the cost, the final cost, and also, can you wait until June? Because we want to see how everything is working out, and they agreed to it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Kathy?
This might be out of order, and that's fine with me, but under the Project Oversight Committee meeting, you announced the rescheduled public meeting. Can you just announce it again, or is that out of order?
I don't. Yeah. Yeah, the neighborhood design workshop, as mentioned in PLC, last week's workshop was canceled due to the weather. That one hasn't been rescheduled yet. We do have our next meeting scheduled for April 23rd for the Iwalei station, and then May 6th for the downtown station.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Any other questions online?
Kiko, I
Yes.
got one.
Go ahead.
Laura, you mentioned the Hitachi inaccuracies in the media. Can you please update us on what Hart's communication plan is to try to address some of this?
Oh, so we had our outside attorneys, every comment that was in the article had a rebuttal, and we were ready to send it out to the media, and I forewarned the Hitachi executives, we are going to launch this, but I delayed it, and now I think it's a non-story at this point. Happy to share what our outside attorneys' rebuttals are to the board. I can email it to you folks, but as of right now, I told them best interest to stop doing that, and they agreed to, and I said if the media reaches out to either one of us, we should have a joint response, because that question that came in to us was very general, and we gave a 3-sentence response to that question. So I'm not sure what questions went to Hitachi, that it was a very long, obviously long response, because there was a lot of quotes from them. So as of today, my plan is, if the media reaches out to us, we will contact Hitachi and say, this is what we should say jointly together.
Okay. So I understand that, there's a legal component to
Yes.
this. What about just the general public relations or communications approach from HART?
For just Hitachi.
And in general, because, we continue to get negative press in general. So
Yeah.
can you update us on HART's communication situation and plan?
In general, whenever the media reaches out to us, we try to respond in time to their deadline. Usually they only give us a few hours to respond. So it's this team plus our PI team to go and gather the information. Mike and myself vet it, and then we send it back to the media if we can meet their deadline. If we cannot, then we try to meet it by the next day, because usually they contact us about 1 and the deadline is 4 o'clock. So we try to respond, but a lot of times they run their story without giving us time to respond.
Do we have a communication officer now?
No, we do
No?
not. Right now, it's still Mike O'Keefe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Any other questions? I have one, and I just want to make sure that we're all, I guess, on the same page and transparent and clear. Understanding that Bill 60 didn't have any specific funds attached to it, can you clarify my understanding that if HART, the HART board and HART could identify surplus funds or private funds, that we are, whether or not we are precluded from pursuing the development of the project within the LPA?
Correct. We are not precluded. If we have excess funds, so technically as of today, we have that delta extra funds, we could already, let's say, put out a planning contract to have somebody do that work. Nothing is precluding us from doing that if we have extra funds.
So it would be a decision that we would discuss
Yes.
in full detail before making any such decision, but
Yeah.
we do have the authority.
We have the authority, correct?
Just want to be clear.
Yes, you're correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, again, I appreciate everyone that took the time to attend this meeting. I understand. I mean, we're going through some unforeseen situations right now, in more ways than one. And I appreciate all you guys' attendance, and those of you in the public who took time to view, watch the proceedings. But if there is no, do we have any follow-up?
Chair, I don't believe so.
Okay, so agenda item 9, no board requests. Okay, so if there's no other business, then this meeting is adjourned at approximately 9:35 a.m. Thank you very much, Lori.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay dry.